The invitation came on a Tuesday, its gold-embossed lettering glinting under the afternoon sun. Marcus Wright and Rebecca Collins request the honor of your presence. 20 years after vanishing from my life, Marcus was getting married again. And somehow, I was invited. I'm Diana Matthews, though I was once Diana Wright, wife to Marcus and mother to our son James, until Marcus betrayed me in the cruelest way. The memories are still vivid. I was at work when the call came. There had been an accident at James's school. By the time I arrived at the hospital, Marcus was already there, his face pale as he informed me that our 6-year-old son had passed. I crumbled. My world was shattered beyond repair. The weeks that followed blurred together. Marcus took charge, arranging the funeral, handling paperwork, even dealing with the insurance claim. I was too grief-stricken to question anything, too broken to see the inconsistencies that should have raised alarms. Then, 6 months later, while shopping for groceries, I overheard a conversation that altered everything. 2 women were chatting about Rebecca, a colleague of Marcus's. Did you see Rebecca's post from Paris? She and Marcus look so happy, and the little boy with them is adorable. One of them said. Frozen, I checked Rebecca's Facebook. The pictures showed Marcus, Rebecca, and a young boy who looked exactly like James. The posts were dated weeks after James's supposed death. My son was alive. Marcus had faked his death and stolen him, starting a new life with his mistress. The discovery felt like another betrayal, but this time it fueled my anger. I immediately hired a private investigator. Marcus and Rebecca had relocated to Europe, using his dual citizenship to create a new life. The death certificate, the funeral, everything had been meticulously planned. For years, I observed from a distance. I watched my son grow up, calling another woman mom, while Marcus built a new life on the destruction of mine. But I couldn't act without risking Marcus vanishing again, so I waited. I rebuilt my life, earning my law degree and specializing in international family law, driven by the knowledge that my son was living a lie. Now, 20 years later, the invitation had arrived. Marcus and Rebecca were marrying in the States, a lavish ceremony. What they didn't know was that I had never stopped searching. 2 months ago, my investigator uncovered evidence of Marcus's fraud, including proof of how he had staged James's death. More importantly, he located James, now 26 and working as an architect in London. I stared at his photo for hours. He had my eyes, Marcus's smile, but he was his own person, shaped by a life I hadn't been a part of. I wrote him a letter, and 3 days later, my phone rang. Is it true? His voice, deep yet shaky, asked. Did he really fake my death? Yes. I whispered, tears spilling down my face. I spent 20 years trying to find you. The silence was deafening. Then I want to meet you, he said. And I want to make him pay for what he did. I glanced at the wedding invitation and thought about the plan James and I had crafted. Marcus thought he was about to enjoy the perfect day, but his past was about to catch up with him. I texted James. The invitation came. Ready? His reply was swift. Ready, Mom. See you in 2 weeks. I smiled, tracing the embossed lettering. Marcus Wright and Rebecca Collins request the honor of your presence. Oh, it will be my honor. The day Marcus stole our son, I died inside. But now, 20 years later, I was about to show him exactly what that kind of death feels like. The following 2 weeks were a whirlwind of preparation. James flew in from London, and seeing him in person for the first time in 2 decades nearly brought me to my knees. We spent hours catching up, filling in the blanks of the lost years. I always sensed something wasn't right, James said one evening. Dad, Marcus would get uncomfortable when I asked about you. Rebecca told me you died when I was little, but something didn't add up. I handed him a photo from his 6th birthday, the last one we'd shared. This was before he took you. You wanted a Spider-Man cake, but I mistakenly ordered a Batman one. You cried for 10 minutes. James chuckled, but his face grew serious. I remember that day. Vaguely. Someone sang the birthday song. Was that you? Yes, I whispered, fighting back tears. I purposely sang off-key to make you laugh. He stared at the photo. I always thought those memories were just dreams. Rebecca would say I was confused, that she was my mom. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. As the wedding day approached, we fine-tuned our plan. The ceremony was set to take place at St. Patrick's Cathedral, with over 300 guests. Marcus had become a successful investor in Europe, and this wedding was the culmination of the life he had built on the destruction of mine. The night before the wedding, I couldn't sleep. I stood at my window, watching the city lights. 20 years ago, I was broken by the supposed death of my child. Now I was stronger, wiser, and ready to take back what had been stolen from me. My phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca's sister, Emma. She'd become an unexpected ally. When I approached her with evidence of Marcus's deceit, she was horrified. "Everything's set," Emma's message read. "The video's ready. They have no idea." I smiled, anticipating the surprise we had planned. Marcus and Rebecca had asked Emma to create a video montage of their love story for the reception. Instead, she had compiled a presentation exposing Marcus's fraud, complete with documents, photos, and incriminating emails. The next morning, I donned a deep blue gown, elegant but not drawing too much attention. I wasn't there to steal the spotlight, at least not yet. James met me at my apartment, looking dashing in his tailored suit. He resembled Marcus, but there was a kindness in his eyes that Marcus never had. "Ready?" he asked, offering his arm. I took a steadying breath, mentally preparing for the journey ahead into the cathedral. The air was still, both of us lost in our thoughts as we approached the venue. Guests in elegant attire made their way inside, and Marcus had spared no expense. There were flowers everywhere, a rich red carpet, and uniformed attendants at every corner. We waited until the majority of the guests were settled in. I could spot Marcus at the altar, his face glowing with pride. Though he was older now, his charm hadn't faded, and his hair had traces of silver. Rebecca stood by her bridesmaids, looking every bit the picture of happiness in her designer gown, unaware of the storm that was about to hit. "Mom," James whispered, placing a hand on mine. "Are you sure you want to go through with this? We can still walk away." I looked at my son, the one who had been taken from me. "No, he has to face the consequences. You deserve the truth, not a life built on lies." He squeezed my hand, nodding. "Let's do this." Just as the wedding march began, we slipped through a side door unnoticed. All eyes were on Rebecca as she made her way down the aisle, giving us the perfect chance to enter. Emma was there to meet us and led us to our seats, offering us a prime view of Marcus. He stood at the altar, smiling through his tears. I felt a flicker of satisfaction, knowing that smile wouldn't last much longer. As Rebecca reached the altar, the priest began the ceremony. I caught Emma's eye. She nodded slightly. Everything was in place. Marcus had no idea that his perfect day was about to fall apart. When the priest asked if anyone objected to the union, I stood up. Marcus's gaze snapped to me, his face draining of color. His eyes landed on James, and I saw the blood leave his face. The moment had come. "I object," I declared, my voice firm. A gasp echoed through the crowd. Marcus's grip tightened on the altar, his knuckles white. "Deanna," he stammered. "What are you?" Then his eyes flickered to James again. His expression turned ashen. Rebecca turned, confusion etched on her face, but it quickly faded when she saw James. Her bouquet fell to the floor with a soft thud. "No," she whispered. "This can't be happening." James stepped forward, standing next to me. "And by the way, hello, Dad," he said in a calm voice. "Or should I call you Marcus? Since you're clearly not the father you pretended to be." The priest, looking bewildered, asked, "What's going on here?" "What's going on?" I answered, stepping into the aisle, "is the revelation of a 20-year-long fraud. Marcus Wright didn't just leave his wife. He faked his son's death and took him away to start a new life." The murmurs in the crowd grew louder as people pulled out their phones to capture the unfolding drama. "Emma," I called, "please show them what we uncovered." Emma pressed a button, and the large screens, which were meant for wedding photos, flickered to life. Instead of romantic snapshots, documents appeared. A forged death certificate, doctored medical records, and emails revealing the elaborate plot. "This is insane," Marcus sputtered. "Deanna, you're not in your right mind. You need help." "Enough, Dad," James interrupted, his voice cutting through the tension. "You're the one who needs help. I found a letter, the ones Mom wrote, searching for me. The ones you kept from me." Rebecca looked horrified, her makeup smudged as tears began to fall. "Marcus, what is he talking about? What letters?" she demanded. I pulled out my phone and played a recording. Marcus's voice from 2 decades ago, speaking to the man who helped him create the fake death certificate. His words echoed in the silent church. "Make sure it's airtight." His mother can never know he's alive. I'll transfer the rest once we're safely out of the country." The room was eerily quiet. All these years, James continued, moving closer to the altar. "You told me my mother was dead. You made me feel like I was insane when I remembered her. Do you have any idea how much that messed with me?" Marcus's face had gone completely gray. "Son, I can explain." "I'm not your son," James snapped. "Not anymore. A real father doesn't do what you did. A real father doesn't steal his own child and live a lie for 20 years. Rebecca took a step back from Marcus, her face showing shock. "You told me she abandoned him," she whispered. "You said she didn't want him, but she signed away her rights." "He lied to you too, Rebecca," I said gently. "He lied to everyone, and now the truth is coming out." Emma stepped forward, holding up her phone. "The police are on their way. They're very interested in the fraud, faking a death certificate, insurance fraud, kidnapping. Those are serious charges, Marcus." The crowd had risen to their feet, recording the entire scandal. Marcus Wright, the once respected banker, exposed as a fraud and kidnapper on his wedding day. Marcus tried to flee, but 2 security guards blocked his path. "Running away again, Marcus?" I asked. "Seems to be your specialty, but not today." James stood beside me, and I felt the weight of 2 decades of pain begin to lift. We had done it. We had uncovered the truth and reclaimed our story. Minutes later, the police arrived, sirens slicing through the chaos. They led Marcus away in cuffs. Rebecca sank into a pew, her wedding dress now a symbol of her broken illusions. "Mrs. Wright," an officer approached me. "We need you and your son to come to the station to provide statements." I nodded and turned to James. "Are you all right?" He looked around at the stunned guests, the evidence flashing on the screens, and gave me a small smile. "Yeah, Mom, for the first time in 20 years, I think I really am." Epilogue. Marcus was sentenced to 15 years in prison for his crimes. The story made national headlines, prompting major reforms in how death certificates are handled. Rebecca filed for an annulment and testified against Marcus, claiming she had no knowledge of his deception. James and I spent the next year rebuilding our relationship. While we couldn't undo the lost years, we moved forward, with James returning to the States for work, now closer to me. As for me, I felt liberated. The years of searching and mourning lifted. I had my son back, and I had seen justice done. Late at night, I sometimes glance at the wedding invitation that set everything in motion and smile. Marcus thought he had engineered the perfect life, but his wedding day turned out to be his downfall, and my ultimate victory. They say revenge is best served cold, but I believe the greatest revenge is simply the truth, finally revealed after years of darkness. And sometimes that truth arrives wrapped in an invitation. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Stay amazed.